Hi, I'm Janine Papolino of the Creative Roundtable, and I would like to welcome you to the NFT event featuring Miriam Reza. Nancy Rizzo is on vacation in Seattle. For those of you who are new here, the Creative Roundtable offers small group coaching and accountability, meets monthly, online, and small groups to help the business side of your creative business by breaking your goals into bite-sized tasks that are manageable, talking through hot topics and getting feedback from one another. Registration for our small group opens in May for July start. You can join our active Slack community as well as our free monthly share and tell and happy hour meetings at any time. We are pleased to present these CR 60-minute events with special speakers. The events are free to our accountability groups and members of Slack with 50% off. Upcoming speakers are May 11th, Mary Vaskaya, Donald Miller's Story Branding Method in Action. June 7th, Map Your Content Marketing Using Branding, featuring Lydia Varesco-Racoma. We are polishing our fall lineup with great speakers. You will be getting emails to attend because of your attendance today. You can, of course, opt out of our emails. A video recap of the event and any links will be shared for those who are registered within 2 weeks of the event. We love our attendees to keep their videos on to support the speaker. Questions will be taken after her presentation. About our speaker, Nancy met Miriam Reza through Serial Marketers, a community that they are both a part of. Miriam is a Miami-based crypto artist specializing in NFT illustration animation. She has a formal background with a degree in industrial design, graphic design, and business administration. Miriam has combined her knowledge in creating custom 2D and 3D pieces. Miriam originally started investing in crypto in 2020 and began Charma, a design agency that creates graphic design solutions for blockchain companies, including convention graphics, pitch decks, branding, and illustrating NFTs. A few NFT initiatives Miriam has worked on include a holiday collection of snow globes for Des Freeman, an organization to educate women in Web3, creating various NFTs in serial marketers, and the Drinking Trees collection, where partial proceeds go towards planting more trees. Miriam believes in creating beautiful and purposeful work and using her skills to positively impact communities. With that said, I'll turn it over to you, Miriam.
Awesome. Thank you for the introduction, Tian. So yes, my name is Miriam. I'm going to share my screen. So just want to confirm that everyone can see the screen in just a second. Awesome. So we can see the screen, yes?
Not yet.
Awesome, because I can't see you, but I'll be perfectly all right. So yes, my name is Miriam. I run Chimera Designs. I'm a crypto designer and graphic designer, and I do create artwork. So up on the title slide are 3 of my favorite projects that I have worked on, not to be biased, but it does feature the Drinking Trees from the Drinking Tree collection. They'll be planting trees in the real world and the metaverse, a donut doge, which I've built a 3D model of and will be.
Miriam, I'm sorry, we can't see your screen yet.
Oh, no, we can't. Okay, I'm so sorry about that. Let's see, can you see the screen now?
No.
No, let's try that again. I'm going to exit and retry that. See if that works.
Yeah.
How about now? We can see the screen?
Yes. Yes.
Awesome. And I'll put that back into presentation mode. Yay, we can see the screen. Awesome. Well, that's great now. So now you can see the images that I was just briefly talking about of the Drinking Trees, which is The image in the middle, the donut doge, which is a 3D component model that will have a physical prototype. And on the left is an image that I drawn for an organization called Her DAO, which supports women in crypto. So a little bit about me. I've been working as a graphic designer full-time professionally for about 3 years now, and I've been running Chimera Designs for about 2 years. I've been invested in crypto starting at the beginning of 2021, although I had researched it for several years prior before jumping in on the deep end. In 2021, I was asked to create some marketing materials for blockchain companies in the startup space. Mainly, I was helping initially to create pitch decks for those companies to get initial seed level funding. And what I didn't realize at the time was that many of those companies had a stigma against having designers work in crypto. So interestingly enough, they had a choice to go with many other designers who had a lot more years of experience, although given the fact of the stigma working in crypto, I think that made it very challenging for some of those startups to find designers who were willing to work with them. And therefore, I was given that opportunity to work with many of those blockchain startups. I wouldn't say there is as heavy of a stigma now, since crypto is becoming more mainstream, especially since we have seen advertisements for the Super Bowl. Many people are very familiar with NFT technology, and it is become more popular. But back then at the time, apparently there was a pretty big stigma. But given that, I would definitely have chosen to support these companies again, because I really do love a lot of the initiatives that I've seen in the crypto space. Several of the companies I've been working with have helped to further advance the space of what can be done with NFT technology, backing medical records onto the blockchain, keeping legal documents onto the blockchain, and making sure that there is a public record for important documents and certifications. As Jan did mention, one really notable collection that I had worked on was the Des Holiday Snow Globes. That was a set of 3 different snow globes to honor the organization, which stands for creating marketing materials and educational resources for women in the crypto space to get started, to support their careers and uplift them. So creating this collection for Des was really important because this was their first NFT collection, and it raised money to be able to help them to provide those educational resources. It was really exciting that this collection also did sell out in about a week after releasing it, which is really awesome to see how popular and high of demand there was for supporting women's initiatives. I worked on about 10 projects in the space, and what's really awesome is that I've participated in buying NFTs. I've created projects for other people. I've also started some of my own projects. So I do have a bit of a unique perspective to share as to what goes into buying an NFT, creating an NFT, and just a wholesome view on both ends of that side. So what are NFTs, in case some of you still need a little bit more clarification, because I know that there have been a lot of definitions, a lot of terms as to going around as what is an NFT, what is not an NFT. To be specifically clear, an NFT is a non-fungible token that is stored on the blockchain. What that means is that it is permanently on this digital ledger where you can view the authenticity of what is on the blockchain. You can view ownership of who has that rights of work, and it's really awesome for artists to be able to track royalties in that way. I really love that people can share and buy and sell NFTs. It really creates a whole new marketplace. NFTs aren't limited to just visual formats, but for the purpose of this talk, I will mainly focus on visual NFTs. That being said, I do own some audio NFTs and can recommend some really great artists if you're interested. To understand NFTs, non-fungible tokens, it's really important to understand why some certain NFTs have had strong historical moments in the space, mainly some of the images that I have on the slide. Going from the bottom left, the image of the CryptoPunks, as you can see, was very popular. And a lot of people had thought that that was popular due to the retro aspect of pixel art. That actually isn't the case. The reason why that collection was really popular was that it was the first of its kind of a generative collection, creating tens of thousands of different computer generated arts. And what's really interesting to note was at the time of when that collection was released, there was a lot of technological limitations on the sizing of the non-fungible tokens and other forms of crypto. And so because of that, the file sizes that artists could upload onto platforms were very small, and that's why there was a lot of pixelated art initially when non-fungible tokens were first created. So it was the first of its kind, and that's definitely very unique and memorable. Of course, a lot of people are very familiar with Bored Apes. Bored Apes is also pretty unique in that they stand to build different generations of their collections. They have added utilities. NBA Top Shots is a pretty cool collection in that it's both 3D and honors actual athletes and real people. This fourth image that I have here is for the world of women, and there's been a huge movement towards equity in the Web3 and crypto space. World of Women was one of the first collections to start that movement. Personally, my favorite is the last image here, drawn by Beeple. This isn't his most famous image. His most famous image was a collection of all the artwork he had drawn over 10 years, which sold for about $16.9 million. And it was a collage of all of Beeple's work. But I'm a huge fan of his artwork, as Beeple is a true artist, and it's really cool to see actual artists recognized for their talents. So there are many reasons why people want to own NFTs. You could have it as a profile picture, and what that can indicate is a status symbol that you're part of a group. If you have a Bored Apes, it's an indication that you got in early into NFTs and that you have wealth in the crypto space. You can have a monetary donation to a cause. One of the projects that I'm building out, Drinking Trees, will be planting trees in real life and in the metaverse. So by buying an NFT to the Drinking Trees projects, you will be also donating money towards planting trees. NFTs can be tickets to events. If you're familiar with Gary Vaynerchuk and own one of his NFTs, he is hosting a Gary V convention for holders of that NFT to be able to network within his community. NFTs can grant you access to professional networking events or communities. Maybe you just love the art, or you want to support the artist, or a really cool project mission, because a lot of NFT projects do aim to serve the community. Or you could see it as an asset. It's an investment, and I will say it's a very speculative investment. I can't promise that all NFTs are great projects, but it's great to do your research to understand which projects hold a lot of weight and will be providing to the community. So there are many reasons to create NFTs. Maybe you want to help your community. Maybe you're an artist and you really want to have a record of your work on the blockchain, but I would highly advise against doing it solely for the money. We're past the point where you can really create NFTs with just really cool artwork and have that sell easily. There was a point in time where that was possible when non-fungible tokens were a very new technology, But in this day and age, people really want to see utility into their NFTs, purpose, and they want to see that people are building these NFTs to help further the community. And so I would highly against doing it solely for the money. That can be one of the reasons why you might want to create it, but I would highly recommend having other forms of utility into your NFTs. So that being said, crypto has a lot of things you do need to look out for. And while I do admit this slide can look very overwhelming if you're new to crypto, it's good to just always be aware of what you're getting into. One really common term in the crypto space is a rug pull. And what that means is a project that is built in the crypto space, often an NFT project, where a team will promote their projects, promise utility towards their projects, but then after they sell their NFT projects, they'll disappear with all the funds and not deliver on their promise. So you definitely want to avoid those. And ways to avoid projects that happen to be scams are to look into the community. Are the people in the community engaged? Are the community members having real conversations? It's really easy to fall for if the community is fake by seeing just engagements. There can be lots of engagement, but oftentimes those can be artificial. So making sure that there are actual conversations of value is really important to check. Also check the team. Every project has information about themselves. Is the team anonymous? Sometimes the team will choose to publicly disclose their names, and that's called doxing. Sometimes they'll choose to remain anonymous. That's not necessarily a red flag, but if they aren't transparent about everything behind their operations, then that is something to be more cautious about. And there are reasons behind why some team members may want to remain anonymous, which I'll get into on the next slide. But if a team does choose to be transparent about who they are, that's usually a really good indication that the project is legit. So when you do join any sort of projects or communities, often that is on Discord, you really need to be careful about who you message. I would highly recommend turning off your direct messaging systems because you will get a lot of spam. And unfortunately, there are impersonators. They may borrow your friend's profile photos and ask you for money. So if that ever happens, always make sure to take a phone call or just have a video conversation so you know that it's legit. More often than not, your friends would probably not likely ask you for crypto. So that is likely a scam. And just make sure to always have a conversation in person with your friends, because that is one of the biggest things to look out for. So on the other side of that, if you are building projects, there are also lots of scams on that end. And I've learned that quite the hard way myself. So hopefully sharing this information can help you to prevent that or help your friends. So if you're building a project, you will often get contacted by fake marketing services. And there are a lot of them. They will promise to build up your engagements, take your project to the moon, or whatever it is they think will sell their services to get you to hire them. A lot of times what they do is they use bots to inflate the numbers in your community. They'll just have engagements where they just post emojis or say this project is great. And while those might be positive comments, it detracts from real conversation and can flood your conversations out, where real community members who actually support the project might actually turn away from your project because they can't tell that the project is legitimate if it is filled with bots. Another thing to be really careful of is you may have some impersonators. You may have impersonators who come after your profile photo and send those to your friends to ask for money. There may be some fake projects that try to mimic yours as well. and there definitely will be a lot of spam. So it's good to be aware of those things. While that is a lot to take in mind, those are some considerations to remember if you want to feel comfortable with having your name publicly tied to your project. You don't necessarily need to publicly disclose your name, but it does help build transparency, and being aware of your project's public reception is really important when building out a project. So for those of you who are new in crypto, here's some resources to get started. So first and foremost, you will need a wallet, and a wallet is a digital place where you hold your NFTs and your crypto funds. There are different types of wallets. One very common wallet is MetaMask, featured in the top left, and that connects as a internet extension plugin. I highly recommend, if you are more cautious, want to protect your assets, get a ledger. It's much more difficult to hack or have people steal your crypto funds if you do have a ledger, which is featured in the top right. And that's the most secure, protected form of protecting your crypto, NFTs, or digital assets. Now, in order to get initial funds into your wallets, you do need to fund your account, and ways to do that can be through crypto exchanges such as Coinbase. You can use Robinhood, Cash App. There are many ways to fund your account. Keep in mind there are gas fees when you do convert money from US dollars into cryptocurrencies such as Ethereum. So that is a transaction fee that's added into the conversion rate, much like if you were to exchange your money for another foreign currency such as the British pound. And also, it's great to get involved in community applications to learn what projects are trending, learn about NFTs in the space, and just to get involved. So three of the biggest communities in crypto are Discord, Twitter, and Telegram. Admittedly, I'm not on Twitter. I don't have much of a social media presence actually, but you can find me on Discord and Telegram. It's where I do find a lot of very valuable communities for learning about crypto and just to be able to engage with others in the space. So if you're creating NFTs, there are a few other places and accounts to keep in mind. So when you want to buy, sell, or list an NFT, you will put that on a marketplace unless you decide to build your own. One of the most common ones, Rarible, on the top left, does have limitations into the sizing that you can upload your NFTs. So you'll often have more pixelated images through Rarible. And OpenSea in the middle is the most common marketplace. OpenSea has the largest audience reach, but you definitely want to make sure your project stands out, as OpenSea does have the largest volume of NFTs listed on that platform. So being able to stand out and differentiate is very important if you choose to be on a popular marketplace. Exchanges are really important in order to convert your cryptocurrency. Sometimes you might need to convert your cryptocurrencies from one form of crypto into another. So the resources Coinbase, Gemini, KuCoin can be great and helpful for that. And some other helpful resources are CoinMarketCap and CoinGecko. I highly recommend that you always check your URL whenever you look into these sources to make sure you are going to the right site, because sometimes, unfortunately, scammers do take advantage of that, and they will have other links that are very similar to the legitimate sources, but always make sure that you're on the correct site. And also Cointelegraph is a great news source if you want to learn about crypto. So some considerations when you're creating NFTs, it's some questions you'll need to think through is, if you're creating NFTs,
knock it on the floor. He's
Do you
knocking
want,
on the floor.
Oh, no.
oh, everything all right?
Now you got it.
My mic is on.
Yes, could you mute that, please? So continuing on, some considerations on creating NFTs. There are some details to think through, such as like what blockchain do you want to be on? Do you want to build a marketplace, or what marketplace do you want to list your NFTs on? How much do you want to sell your NFTs? That's another term for saying what is the mint price, and how many NFTs do you want to create? There are different routes you can go. You can create just a single image, and that can be a single one of one image where there's only one of those sold, or you can have variations of that, or you can create a whole collection where there are tons of different images. So selling NFTs is essentially selling a product. And much like that, there's a lot of considerations that you have to put behind your NFT, such as who is your audience? What do they value? What are you promising? What price are they willing to pay? What are their values? You want to make sure that you align your NFTs towards what your audience wants. And the space is constantly evolving. So the rules that might have applied just 3 months ago could be drastically different now. And the rules 3 months from now could be very different as well. Deciding what blockchain to put your NFTs on right now at this point in time could very much change in 3 months as to what would be the best decision. So I will say there is no magic formula into making NFTs. There's no magic formula into making money from it, but there's a lot to be aware of, and there's a lot of information to track. And there's definitely a lot more of a thought process there's a lot more of a thought process rather than, oh, I can create this image and sell it instantly. A strong project in the NFT space has really 3 components to it. It's credible, it provides utility, and you have some sort of marketing strategy. To be credible means you're transparent about what you're doing, you're honest and are going to follow through with the project on what you're going to deliver, and that your audience is aware of that. Providing utility can come in many forms, and that's mainly one of the selling points that people want to buy NFTs, because they're buying into the utility of that project. And it's really important that you have a marketing strategy behind your projects, simply because if no one is aware of your projects, or there aren't enough eyeballs on your projects, how is it going to sell? That's just how it relates to just another product. Is you need that audience and you need that visibility in order to sell an NFT. Ideally, when you create a collection, your dream team would consist of these 4 different roles. They can overlap. You can have someone who has knowledge in doing all of these and have these all done by one person, or you can have more people. But having a developer is great, because when you create an NFT, you're creating a smart contract, which does involve a bit of coding work. And a developer can help in being able to make sure that all these transactions can go in place. Your NFT is safely delivered in the hands of your audience. Having an operations manager is super helpful to make sure that your community is in place, the operations go smoothly, because it is very similar to running a business in a way. You definitely do want to make sure someone is keeping track of your social media, social perception, keeping your audience engaged, and a social manager is great for that. And of course, having a creative, you do need someone to actually create the NFTs, and that is something that I do as well. So, roadmaps. Most NFT projects, if not all, will have a roadmap. That's a very common term in crypto. And what that means is it's the plan from when you create your NFT to getting it in the hands of your users. So a common roadmap will often have a planning stage where people on the team are planning the collection, creating the collection, deciding how it will work. That can overlap a bit with community building efforts, building that project awareness, and marketing the projects. It doesn't just end when you launch and sell your collection. After that project is on the blockchain, it continues to be on the blockchain. So you definitely want to make sure to deliver upon the utilities that you promise, keep your community engaged. It's important to think through what impact will your project continue to have after its launch. So I know that was a lot of information. And if you're trying to figure out, well, how do I get started? Here are just 3 easy steps. I recommend that you join communities. You can find different groups on Discord, Telegram, Slack, events that meet in person. Checking Eventbrite is great for finding groups in person and events that do meet up. If you're lucky enough to live in a big city, as I do, I live in Miami, there are regular events that happen in person, but there are plenty that happen virtually too. And as far as attending really big events, conferences are great for networking, highly recommended. It's the fastest way to get information and network. But guess what? You don't have to live in a major city to attend a conference either. You can also join those virtually too. And if you're super excited and really want to go all in, the best way to learn is to create in the space, create a marketing strategy, work with a team, ask people what they're doing and what they're building. What I love about crypto is that it's a very open community. There are a lot of people who believe in the equity that crypto will bring and want to support and educate everyone to have that opportunity. So if you have any more questions on NFTs, you're building a project, or you just want to say hi, feel free to shoot me an email, send me a message on LinkedIn, visit my website, chimeradesigns.com. I am available to answer any questions if you have further questions on NFTs, or maybe you just have that information sink in and maybe a few weeks later have a question, feel free to reach out. I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have or your friends might have. So that being said, if anyone has any questions now, do let me know. I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have in this space.
Does anyone have any questions?
Yeah, I had a quick question.
Yes.
So, at what point on the timeline would you recommend beginning the back-end development of like your project?
So good question. I would need a little bit more specifics. As for creating a project, are you looking to create a whole collection or a single NFT?
A collection with like a DAO associated with it.
Okay. So I would say definitely build more room for planning, because there are a lot of things that change in crypto as a space that does evolve rapidly. Depending on your collection size, you definitely want to work backwards from when your anticipated launch date is going to be, the amount of time you'll need for marketing, the amount of time you'll need to create the artwork, and alongside the artwork is when you would be doing the development of that project. Ideally, I would say give yourself about 2 months for developments. Give yourself about 2 months after that for marketing, and maybe about 4 months total for building out a collection. Any other questions?
Real quick, just following up on that, would it make sense also to begin marketing before development to kind of like test what your community is going to look like?
Absolutely. Highly recommend it. You want to know what your community members think, what they're interested in, but definitely have a period after the development is complete to continue those marketing efforts and focus on building and expanding that community.
Deb, you had a question?
Yeah, this might be a stupid question, but I'm not sure I understand what you mean by development. And
there are no stupid questions. There are no stupid questions. It's a very new space, so there's a lot to learn. Development phases for NFT projects will go into building out the marketplace, for your NFT, like where it could be hosted. You could go into building out those smart contracts, which allow your non-fungible tokens to be on the blockchain. Development can also involve building out those transactions. So there are many components towards the development of a project. Isaac, if there's anything else you wanted to add as to development, that'd be wonderful.
Yeah, so in regards to ours2, development could involve creating a DAO, which is a decentralized autonomous organization. So a lot of NFT projects also have native tokens that come with them. And if you're going to be creating native tokens that have governance potential, you would also want to get involved in figuring out the smart contracts, how that's going to operate. Along with this, we'll probably come with a tokenomics plan to make sure that your tokens, don't depreciate in value too quickly and are able to properly, be utilized for whatever your NFT project is.
Dev, I know that was a lot. It's a lot to soak in. Yes, go ahead now. Nadine, is that your name?
Yeah.
Yes, yeah, Nadine. It kind of follows up on Deb's because I'm still trying to process it all too. So if you're doing something, putting something up on an existing marketplace, like you mentioned OpenSea, does that development still come into play, or are you just like, in my head, I'm picturing you upload a graphic and then it goes somewhere else, but like, what is that file format? And if you're using an existing marketplace, what does that look like?
Yeah, great question. So I will say yes, there is still a little bit of development work, regardless of if you do choose to create your own marketplace or use an existing marketplace. The development work in using an existing marketplace is you do need to build out your smart contracts. A smart contract is the code that allows your NFT to live onto the blockchain, to put it onto that marketplace. And so you do need to make sure that that helps with like the transaction. If there's like any metadata, such as a description on what that NFT is, that is in the smart contract. The file format, names, and everything will be living also within that smart contract as well. Sometimes you can have your image upload directly. Really, any image file size works, especially for OpenSea, PNG, JPEG, just standard image file formats. If it is a very large size, for some platforms such as Wax or other marketplaces, they will host that image somewhere else and it will live somewhere else, and the NFT will redirect to where that is on the internet using IPFS technology. So that can sound a bit complicated and a lot to wrap your head around at first, but there's a lot of resources out there that do exist for helping people to mint and create their first NFTs onto OpenSea.
Ozzy, you have a question? You can unmute yourself.
Yeah, I was wondering, I know Twitter allows profile pictures to be converted to NFTs. Do you know any other platforms that allow that, to create an NFT from their system? And I haven't seen anyone on Twitter adopting the NFT profile picture. Is it something that it's mostly like within certain circles? Have you noticed people using it? I haven't seen a single one.
Yeah, good question. So Twitter does have a unique application towards it where you can have a proof of ownership of your NFT tied towards your collections that you do own. So other platforms don't currently have that integration in them yet, but they are building that out. Maybe there might be some that I just am not aware of at this point in time. But what people often do is, of the NFTs they own, they'll manually upload those as profile photos. So on Facebook, on Discord, Telegram, you can see people use those profile pictures. It's very common in the Discord and Telegram applications because a lot of people like to be represented by their art in those spaces. Twitter, I'm not on Twitter, but I know a lot of people use that as a way to promote their projects, hold Twitter spaces, join Twitter spaces communities and talks. I do more commonly see people discussing projects on Telegram and Discord. So Twitter's great for as like more of a news source social media to find information. Telegram and Discord, Slack are better applications for getting to interact with people in a community.
How many of you, go ahead, Ginny.
Hi there. I think I'm loud enough. So what would be a first step if you, before creating NFTs, if you've never gotten into the crypto space? I would imagine it's not too wise to start out with an NFT. So what would you suggest that you get familiar with it?
Absolutely. Talk to people who are in the space. Ask them questions. Even if you feel like they're stupid questions, they're not, because everyone else who got into crypto, myself included, asked a lot of stupid questions at first. So don't feel shy. A lot of people in Web3 want a world of equity where people feel that they're welcomed. And I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have. I can recommend some groups. Dust Femmes is a great women's magazine that's online, and you can read through their articles as to just what is going on in the tech and crypto space. So just joining events, talking to people, that's the best way to get familiar with it. There's a lot of new lingo. And once you become more comfortable with some of the lingo and a lot of the different components within crypto, then it helps to get more involved and jump into the deeper end of buying your own NFTs.
How many of you, is this the first time you've heard of this? Just a quick show of hands. No, really? This is all new to me, so it's kind of interesting.
Do you have any questions, Jan?
Any further questions? So Miriam, it's all, I'm assuming that a lot of it is tied back to like the artist. So there's a copyright on it, or it's just, you always know who created the artwork, correct?
Yes. So what's great about non-fungible tokens is the technology serves to be a form of art that cannot be altered or tampered. So that allows that authenticity that you can trace it back to the original artist. There have been some issues where people have taken other artists' work and published it as NFTs. So I will say that is a concern for some artists in the space. Mainly a very big example of that was Banksy, very popular spray paint artist, had his artwork put on the blockchain that was not put on by him and sold by someone else. So there are a lot of improvements that can be made in this space. Yes, you can trace it back to the artist. You can trace it back to the team who also developed the artwork surrounding it. It's not all art-based, although that is one of the big focuses that non-fungible tokens have, especially visual ones, is collecting digital arts.
Gotcha. Isaac, you have a question?
Oh, I just wanted to say, for some of the people who might be worried about like copyright, one of the issues that we ran into with our artist was he was worried about exactly the same thing, of somebody taking the art and then using it for things without getting permission. You can also attach like legal documents to the asset as well. If you're using OpenSeas, this is like in the characteristics section. So if you wanted to like add like a copyright that said like, if you purchase this NFT, you are entitled to these rights and limited to these rights, you're also able to do that. So like there is a lot of good ways, and it's all in the code, which is cool. There's a lot of good ways of attaching like legal documents to the NFTs themselves so that you can retain those rights.
Thank you. Very well said, Isaac. Another thing to note is that creating an NFT doesn't automatically make it intellectual property. While you can be the original creator of something, there are often a lot of ways that people can create derivatives, and that's not unique to NFTs, but that's just common amongst creating arts.
Go ahead, Deb.
Hi. Do you know of examples of publishers for whom the artist has done work for hire and been paid, or gets royalties on, let's say, the publication of a book or a video, where the publisher wants to create the NFT? How does that complicate things? It's not the artists themselves creating it. It's the publisher who owns the rights and the copyright.
I see what you're saying. Yes, that is something that can happen. Mainly NFTs were created to empower artists to be able to sell their own artwork without the middleman of publishers. That being said, as an artist myself, I have worked with other organizations, not necessarily publishers, but other individuals who were the owners of that collection. I've created the artwork for them and advised on making sure that it was uploaded correctly. And as they were the owners of the project, they did have ownership rights to it. But as the artist, as I did get a percentage of the royalties and partial ownership of that project.
So you would get a percentage. When you say partial ownership of the project, what does that mean? In addition to receiving a percentage of the royalties, I mean, it's a one-time purchase, right? So you get a percentage of that.
Actually, not to make it more complicated, NFTs can be made to be resold. So if someone decides to purchase an NFT and then resell it to their friend, the artist can get a cut of what the original sale was, and then also a percentage of the resale of that NFT as well.
So it'd be in my interest as the publisher to work with the artists, getting their permission and working out a contract, just as we did when we were creating the original videos or books.
Absolutely. So what is unique about the NFT landscape is that this isn't new as far as royalties, but it does give a lot more power to people who are creators in being able to advocate for rights in the community landscape. It's very well recognized that artists do get portions of the work that they do create and have those royalties. So there's a big, strong advocacy towards that. Often it's great to work with your artists. There isn't a set percentage necessarily as to like the split of royalties or ownership over that art. It is more of a case-by-case basis, depending on what you're building, how involved your artist is, and what you're trying to do. In some situations, if your artist is mainly there to create the artwork, I could see that as the project owners would have more rights and ownership of the project. But if your artist is also advising, consulting, providing input, marketing, and doing other things, it is a lot more fair to make sure that your artist is compensated fairly and does have more rights to that work.
Is there a sample contract that you have worked with in working with artists or with yourself, or is it something that has to get created each time according to whatever the parameters are of the project?
I wouldn't say there is necessarily a sample contract. It's a very new space. The landscape of crypto does change as far as like the technological limitations, capabilities, and just like how those operations do function. I do recommend it is a good idea to definitely have a contract to outline the specifics of what royalties will be distributed, to have a specific price point outlined, to make sure that like the scope of work is defined just as in a normal project as well, where you would define the scope of work, length of engagements, and other standard things that would be in a contract.
So you got to get a legal firm involved, a lawyer.
You don't necessarily need a legal firm or a lawyer. You can get one if you would like to. And there are crypto lawyers who do specialize in writing contracts for that specifically.
One thing I just wanted to clarify or ask for clarification is artwork just a one-time purchase, or can an artist make profit several times from a piece of artwork?
Great question. Yes. So artwork can be resold with the intention of making more money. So as an NFT, the digital artwork is on the blockchain. It can be in the hands of as many owners as possible, depending on who decides to resell it. And built into that smart contract, a resale percentage can be outlined and set aside for the artist so that they always get a cut of that resale. So
And who
that is,
manages that?
I'm sorry?
Who manages that?
The smart contract. So your developer helps to code that into the contracts and write those terms.
Ah.
Interesting. So
Again, there are
technically-
no dumb questions.
So technically, it is better to have a contract.
So a smart contract is not a contract. A smart contract is a piece of code that outlines that. But yes, I do recommend having a contract when building a project does outline the other pieces that are not within the code that will be within your arrangements when you do create a project.
Does anyone else have questions? I think a lot of us, this is some new content for us, but you covered it great.
Awesome. Glad to hear. And if you have questions later, feel free to reach out.
Very good. So no other questions? I guess that will conclude our seminar. I want to thank Miriam for her presentation. And like I said, all the great content. It was all new to me, so I'm sure it was new to everyone else too. Deb, you have one last question? Go ahead.
Yeah. You said that this is recorded, or that we could get copies
Yes,
of.
it'll be
the-
recorded, and it will be sent out to those on the list that have
Great.
signed up for this.
Terrific. Thank you. Thank you very much.
With that, I will conclude this seminar, and thank you all for attending.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thanks everyone for
Thank you.
listening.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Miriam.
Thank you.